Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers, Robbie Rants Live. We're going to be doing a live stream tonight talking about comic books, pop culture, movies, TV, anything that you really want to. A little bit of music as well, because I did went to a concert last night and that was pretty exciting. So we'll probably talk about that just a little bit. But we always like to get into comic books and all that kind of jazz. So we start off usually these live streams every Sunday night here. We usually start them off with a look at the upcoming comic books coming out this week, which should be very, very exciting. Looked like I had something on my lip. All right, we'll start off with Dark Horse. We'll take a look real quick at Dark Horse. And like I said, once you guys come in, let me know you're here. I always like knowing who we're talking to. What's up, Sweet Exorcist 7? Happy Sunday, everybody, by the way. Did you have a good weekend? What's up, Stephanie? I'm doing well. I've had a good day. I did a lot of work today getting Power Ranger toys sorted, mostly Zords. So that's pretty cool. There's a new Frozen book from Dark Horse this week. That's, I guess, interesting, of course. The Giants trade paperback is out. That was a really cool thing, especially for fans of Kaiju. The Paybacks, which that's a Donny Cates book. That trade paperback comes out this week. A big release from Dark Horse is Seeds #1. A lot of people are going to be are hyping this one up. It's supposed to be really, really good. David Aja or Aja or AJ, I don't know how you're supposed to say his last name, but that's the artist, and so there's a lot of hype behind that book right now. And the next issue, the final issue of Xerxes, comes out this week, for those of you who want to know about that. So I hope everybody's doing fine. We'll look at IDW here real quick. What is up, comic guy? How you doing? What's up? Daz? What's up, Daz? From the UK, the United Kingdom. Awesome. Super cool. I've always wanted to go to the UK. Always. What's up? How are y'all doing? Yes, Stephanie, I do have some toys up in the bookshelf. Today I spent a lot of time going through Power Rangers Zords. I had to find pieces and relearn how to put some of them together because it's been years. Some of them have been packed up for years, actually, since the Avondale house. All that. But there's some stuff over there, but there's still a lot of mess, obviously. But we're working our way through that. What's up, White Dog? How you doing? So from IDW, we'll see if there's anything really coming out. Bubba Hotep #2 comes out. If those of you that enjoyed issue #1 of that, there's a Delta 13. Highest House #6 is out this week. That's exciting. I've been loving that book. A lot of people here on the channel have been loving that book, actually. That's really cool. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Bebop and Rocksteady Hit the Road. The new miniseries coming out. That sounds exciting. That does sound exciting. Let me look real quick and see if Dynamite has anything. We're going to be talking about comic books, pop culture, movies, anything you guys really want to. Excuse me. We did not do a pop culture wrap-up this week because it was just a very busy weekend, and plus just not a lot of news. Usually the week after San Diego Comic-Con is pretty light. Pretty light on news sometimes. There were a couple of announcements, though, but I don't remember any off the top of my head. From Dynamite, we also have we got Project Superpowers #1. Yeah, and a book called Robots versus Princesses #1. Definitely have to check that out. I got something hanging off my hat right there. Yep. Boom. We got a new issue of Giant Days Go Power Rangers wrapping up soon. This I think this is, this month wraps up the whole Shattered Grid thing, I'm pretty sure. A new issue of Rocko's Modern Life, a new Steven Universe book, Harmony, #1 is out this week. War for the Planet of the Apes trade paperback, and WWE fans, the Attitude Era 2018 special. So I guess there'll be some Rock and some Stone Cold and some Mankind in that. That sounds neat, doesn't it? All right, then we'll go look at some Image comics coming out this week. But let's see here. Comic Guy says he bought the Avengers vs. X-Men Companion. You think it's a good book? By Companion, I'm guessing that it's going to have all the secondary stuff from the Avengers vs. X-Men event, which had a lot of talent behind it. It had Jonathan Hickman, Brian Michael Bendis, Ed Brubaker, Jason Aaron, Matt Fraction. That's a hell of a writing team. But I remember, the book was okay. So I think the main AVX book is okay, and I think the side stuff was a little weaker. But if you like AVX, it's a good little, it should be a good companion to that. Maybe does it have the AVX versus book in it? Some of those were pretty neat. The Wolverine and the X-Men tie-ins were really good by Jason Aaron. Those are pretty cool. Yeah, so, I mean, if you like AVX, I guess it's worth it. Blue Devil, I don't know any word on Blue Devil. I'm sure that one day we will see him again in the DC universe. You know, Stephanie, we never did talk about the Eisners last week. I fully intended to, and we even got reminded, I think, by Nelson, but we didn't. So we can talk about that. I am excited for Tom King to win. Sucks that he shares it, like, because it was a tie between him and the lady that writes Monstrous. Is that Majori Lou? Majore Lou? I don't know who that is. I don't know the pronunciation. It's something I struggle with on a lot of these videos. I need to research that more. But you know, it's kind of odd that there was a tie, but I guess that's kind of cool. I think she was the first woman to take home a Best Writer Eisner, so that's really, really neat. Mitch Gerrits, yeah, totally should have won that book. I think that Hawkeye should have won. Yeah, I don't know. There's some things that I think there's always something with the Eisners that I just think is just a little too off. I don't know, but yeah, it is really, really cool. I think Mr. Miracle is one of the best books out there, so it's really cool to see them get some recognition for that. What's up, Alexander? What's up, Buff Muffin? Oh, well, straight up, if it was under $20 for a 1,000-page AVX companion omnibus, yeah, that's totally worth it. That is totally worth it. Yeah, Monsters totally cleaned up. You know, I read the first issue of it, and I just it didn't grab me. I thought the art was beautiful, but the story didn't grab me. But it's gone on to become many people's favorite comic book right now. Yeah, Mr. Miracle does come out this week, and it has been on a long delay. And there's another delay coming soon, I think. But it's almost done. Isn't that crazy? It's almost done. I don't want it to end, but I also really want to know what the F is going on. It takes a lot for Mitch Gerrits to do that book, and I'm cool with the wait. I really, really am. It came out last year? Was it August or September when it started? From Image Comics this week, we got Bloodstrike number 24. I wasn't feeling that Bloodstrike book. I really wanted to, but I just wasn't, guys. Kind of bothered me. Last Siege number 3 is out this week. A new one with the artist from Manhattan Projects. So where's that book at, Hickman? I don't know. Leviathan number 1 is out this week. A new issue of Paper Girls number 23 is out this week. 7 to Eternity returns with issue number 10 out this week. Spawn 288 this week with yet another Matina cover. And Walking Dead 182. So not a lot of Image books for me. I'll definitely probably check out Leviathan for sure. And Paper Girls, obviously, I'm loving that book. I fell behind on 7 to Eternity, so I'm trade waiting that. So I need to get caught up. And I quit reading Walking Dead, and I feel much better for it. That's just me personally, though. All right, we'll get to some DC comics now because Stephanie already mentioned Mr. Miracle coming out this week. That's going to be a big deal. But let's look and see if anybody said anything. What's up, James? How you doing? Things are going really, really well here. I'm having a lot of fun, a good time. Just still, working on the studio, getting it ready. Last night, I got to go see Live and the Counting Crows. And they had an opener called Boom Forest, and they were actually good. Boom Forest, check them out. They were actually pretty good. I've seen Live before, never saw the Counting Crows. It was awesome, so cool. I was super excited to hear that Ed and the gang got back together for Live last year. So last year I decided I really wanted to see Live the next opportunity I could. They're on tour with Counting Crows. I've never seen them, and I really love the Counting Crows. So it was a match. It was perfect. So I went down and watched them, and it was really, really fun. It was a great show. Fantastic show. Really good stuff. Loved it so much. Juan, what do I expect from the new Fantastic Four? I expect a very adventurous, fun comic book because that's what the Fantastic Four should be. It should be about science and exploration. It should be less of a superhero book and more of a pulpy, adventurer type thing. And I look for something that really respects what Kirby and Lee did and what John Byrne did and what Hickman did and what Mark Waid did, and what Paul Ryan and Tom DeFalco did, and what Steve Englehart did, and Mark Wolfman did, and every other writers and artists that came before. So I'm really expecting just a good, fun book. And that's exactly what the Fantastic Four should be. It should be based on family and have that family dynamic. So hopefully that's what we'll get. I think Dan Slott is a very, very good writer, and I'm very excited to see what him and Sarah Bichelli are going to be doing with this. That's just me, though. I'm very excited. It is literally my favorite comic book ever is Fantastic Four. So I'm so happy that it's back. So happy. Beyond excited. I cannot tell you guys how excited I am. I can't express it enough. It's so good. Yeah, well, X-Men Grand Design. See, I have a weird idea about, and I know that it was just a. I know that it was, Grand Design 1 and 2 was its own thing, and now there's Second Genesis. I get that, but it's really going to be one piece. And I really have an issue at times with Eisner's being awarded to things that aren't finished yet, that we know are going to finish, right? If it, like best continuing and ongoing, best writer, best artist, like things like that, I get. But like to award something like best new series, I believe they did this last year to like Mr. Miracle, right? That book, like we don't know. Like, what if that book has a terrible third act? What if that book's just terrible at the end? I don't think it will be, but what if? And so I don't know. There's a lot of, I don't know. There's a lot of like Grand Design. I don't think that book is completed yet, so I don't think it should win. But I think after it's completed, it should definitely be in the running, and it was already in the running. And it's just weird because I don't know. I have weird thoughts about it. Like if something's limited, how can we truly judge it until it's completed? I don't know. That's just me. I have weird thoughts about the Eisners. I really think they should let me vote on the Eisners. They should let all of us, right? Do we get a fan vote? We should get a fan vote if we don't. If we do, shame on me for not knowing that, because voting is our power that we have. I think Justice League is coming back this week, Alexander, and every so often, Snyder's going to kind of tell the book, the issue from the Legion of Doom's perspective. And so Snyder's been saying that this upcoming issue, which is issue 5, is more like Doom Patrol, is more like the Legion of Doom #1. And I'm really, really excited. I'm loving everything that Scott Snyder's been doing with Justice League right now. It is hands down my favorite superhero comic book right now. I've read it so many times. I've read that #1 issue like 5 times, guys. I'm like obsessed with this book. I pick up new things. I get excited. I just love it so much, so much. Yeah, it is Mr. Miracle #10, and that's the one with the Dark Side cover, right? That cover is BA. That cover is amazing. She talks to angels. I don't think that's the Counting Crows or Live. Who is that? Is that the Black Crows? Lightning Crashes was live. It's the last song they did. It was great. The live show hit a real hype peak when they played I Alone. It was right as the sun was setting, and so it was getting a little dark. And like I feel like shows during the day, like unless you're super, super close, and I wasn't super, super close. I wasn't super, super up there in the nosebleeds or nothing. It was at an outdoor amphitheater. But as soon as the sun set, it got a lot more hype. But then they just coincidentally happened to play I Alone, which is a huge hit for them back in the day. So it's still very well known today and still gets radio play today. So that they played that, and immediately followed by Lakini's Juice. And those 2 songs were probably like the best, most hype that night got. Like it still stayed good. And like the Counting Crows came in, they were fantastic. They were so good. I am more of a Live fan. Live came on first, then the Counting Crows, but both of them were fantastic and awesome. One of my favorite Counting Crows songs is Omaha, and man, it's great. And seriously, like a third of the Counting Crows shows like VH1 storytellers. It's seriously just Adam telling us the stories behind these songs. And what's funny is that me and my homie on the way up there, we were listening to Counting Crows, and we were wondering, he asked, why is this song called Miami if it's also about New Orleans? And he told the story about that song. And so we completely 100% know now. It was super cool. What's up, Icy Cold Milk? FF comes out not this week, but next week, I believe. I think it's next week. I'm very excited. The Dark Side all black cover is going to be tough to find in very high grades. I ordered 11 copies in the hopes of getting a couple 9/8s. That's going to be a great cover. You know, people that buy comic books just on covers alone, that's definitely going to be something that you're going to want. are they doing different versions of like different colors, or is it just the black one? Like they're just doing that one, right? And what was really cool is on Twitter when that got released, it was an easy one for because of the way it looks and the way it's colored, it was easy for colorists to take it and do their own version of it. And a lot of people did it, and a lot of amateur colorists did it, and some really fantastic artwork. That was so cool. Lightning Crashes is a great live song. It is probably their most popular song. I mean, Throwing Copper is a great album. I think Secret Samadhi is one of their best albums. I think 5, which is, or V, whatever, the Roman numeral 5, I think that's a very severely underrated album. And I love the first one, but The Distance to Here is probably, actually, The Distance to Here is probably their best album. That's a great album. Yeah, the Hickman Fantastic Four run is amazing. If you want to read more Fantastic Four, there's not a lot more modern Fantastic Four that's pretty good. You're going to have to go back in the past. The absolute best run of Fantastic Four is Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. They did like 103 issues of it consecutively. When you read it, though, you just got to understand it's the 60s, so it's 60-sized. So it's got some things in it, and it's a little clunky at times just because they like to tell you what you could obviously see back in the day. But those books are so fun, and to me they stay fresh. But I really like the Kirby Fantastic Four is the best for me. Then I really like the Hickman run. But if you like Hickman, I would suggest, I mean, first of all, also the John Byrne run is amazing. One of my personal favorite runs is Tom DeFalco and Paul Ryan. Now, the Byrne is going to be just like the Lee and Kirby stuff is obviously 60s. The Byrne stuff is obviously 80s. And the Ryan and DeFalco stuff is obviously 90s. But if you want something a little bit more fresh, a little bit more contemporary, I would suggest reading the Mark Waid, Mike Wieringo run on Fantastic Four. Yet another brilliant run on the Fantastic Four. Those are the top runs on Fantastic Four. It's Lee Kirby, John Byrne, Jonathan Hickman, Mark Waid, and Tom DeFalco, Paul Ryan. That's my top 5. In no particular order, but Kirby and Lee are number 1. Yeah, Black Crows. I've never seen them either. Counting Crows did Long December, Mr. Jones, Omaha, Round Here, Hanging Around, those songs. Yeah, I would highly recommend to anybody the Kirby Lee Fantastic Four, just because that book is, there are moments in comic book history that really shape and define the comic book industry for decades and decades and decades, and that's one of those books. Do you buy multiple, White Dog, do you buy multiple copies of books just in case? Like, are you trying to see if like they're going to hype up and stuff like that? What's up, Patch? How you doing? Good to see you back. Your first Fantastic Four books was Fantastic Four versus X-Men. You're talking about the one from like the late 80s, I think, somewhere around there. And like one of the covers, and it like stuck in my head as a kid, was Reed dressed as Dr. Doom. It was Dr. Doom, and he pulled off his mask, and it was Reed, and he killed like the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. Man, that really like that cover like stays in my head straight up. That was a silly run. That's a silly series, but it's fun. That Middleton Batgirl cover from earlier in the year was a huge, huge thing, man. It was a big deal. Oh man, Alexander, if you knew how much stuff I have, I'm still moving stuff over from the previous house and studio. At this point, I think I figured out where at least half of my Star Trek books can go. I just have too much stuff, but I've been unloading, so we're working on it. You know, I'm a busy guy. We're all busy people, right? What's up, Nelson? Good to see you. Have no fear. They are putting out new paperback Ultimate Collection editions of Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four run, I think this month. They're doing a whole lot of new trade paperback runs to celebrate the FF coming back. So I would recommend getting it that way for sure. But it's fantastic. It's so good. And I'm sure that the trades and the omnibus, even though it's out of print now, they may put that back in print. You might want to check on that, because I know they put out some more of the previous hardcover omnibuses. They're doing new prints of them. So I don't know if that's one of them. I think that there's a Lee and Kirby one. I think there's a John Byrne one. But whatever it takes, read the Hickman Fantastic Four. It's so good. And make sure you read it in the right order. Stephanie, that's a really good idea to just pare down your collection every so often. I used to do that, and I just got behind. We started doing these videos. I have a full-time job. I have a personal and social life that I try to, keep going as well. And there's other things to do as well, like, spiritual practices and physical practices and things like that. So lots of time, just not enough time. Or actually, there is enough time. We just got to make the time, right? Don't tell yourself there's not enough time, because you'll never have enough time then. Tell yourself there is enough time. You just got to make the time. Everybody's got the same 24 hours in a day. But I did a lot of work today, and I'm very proud of myself. And I got a Tommy shrine right there. If you're on the PCP Army on Facebook, I shared a photo of that, and I'm really happy with my Tommy Oliver shrine for Power Rangers over there. Very, very excited. Yeah, reading the mask. Hell yeah, that's good. Patch almost bought some Fantastic Four books today, but bought Grim Jack and some Shadow of the Bat instead. You should always buy Fantastic Four, especially if it's Lee or Kirby, or Byrne, or Wade, or Hickman, or, in my opinion, Paul Ryan and Tom DeFalco. I think they have a severely underappreciated run on Fantastic Four. Now, maybe the fact that was like a run that I read throughout my teenage years has a lot to do with it. So the nostalgia is a part of that. It's very 90s, guys. If you ever seen the cover, they do terrible things in the book where, like, they put Sue in a Psylocke-esque type costume. They give them all big giant guns and jackets, and the Reed vest though works, and it's so cool. And I want to see the Reed vest come back. That's just what I'm saying. At least with the Fantastic Four, it makes sense that they would have like something that would hold gear, right? Because they go on these crazy missions to other dimensions and outer space and things like that, the microverse and all kinds of craziness. Yeah, but it's very extreme 90s sometimes. But overall, I think it's a really good run that highly respects everything that came before. It's also the run where we realize that Alicia's a Skrull, and where Johnny sets fire to the Empire State University, and he's a wanted man, and then Wolverine like slashes Ben's face, and it gets all pussy and nasty and messed up, and he wears a helmet for a while, and it just gets infected, and then Reed dies, and Scott Lang Ant-Man joins, and then Sue becomes the leader, and Sue really becomes such a strong character in that book in particular. Kristoff joins the FF during that run. Oh my goodness, I love that run so much. It's so silly. So silly. Oh man, 20 long boxes? Yeah, man. I am not a Trekkie, I am a Trekker. Or whatever. Yeah, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. Discovery, I never finished season 1 because I canceled my CBS All Access because I was like, I'm paying for this every month and I'm barely watching this. But I did like what I saw. I liked it a lot. I need to catch up. What I'm thinking about doing is, like, when season 2 launches, restarting CBS All Access, watching season 1, watching season 2, being done with it. But I loved Discovery. I mean, I watched all the way up to where they wound up in the Mirror Universe, and then in there's where I stopped watching. But I loved it. I loved it a lot. I think I picked it as my favorite TV show of 2017 or 2016. Yeah, 2017. That was wrong, though. That's probably Rick and Morty season 3. My take on Mr. Miracle is that, first of all, either A, he committed suicide and he died and he's in like the New Gods version of hell, something like that, or B, that's all just an allegory and he's infected with the anti-life equation, and that's what he's going to have to escape. Or that there's, God, man, is it the, I can't remember the name of this thing. There's a new God character. It's from Apocalypse, and it's this big lump. I think it might be the lump or something like that. It's just this big, like, lumpy clay face looking dude almost, and he can like get into people's minds and have them live out worlds. It was utilized in Grant Morrison's Batman R.I.P., for instance, in Final Crisis. I think something like that's happening. That's what I think. I think that's the most likely. What's up, Nicholas? You got a question? Let's see here. Which is better on a comic and a movie standard, DC or Marvel? Is the point of the question to ask me what do I think, who do I think does movies better and who do I think does comic books better? If that is the case, Marvel does movies better, DC does comic books better. Currently. Not always. It goes up and down. But I don't think DC is the best publisher in the game right now. That goes to Vault and Image Comics. And Aftershock's making a name for themselves too. Nelson, I think the new trades will be in order. I think what they're going to do is they're going to have all of his FF together. Then they're going to do first of all, let me clarify, because he turned the book into Future Foundation for a while. I think they're going to do a Fantastic Four omnibus and then FF omnibus. I'm not completely unsure about that, so I'll have to look that up for you. But I am certain that they are going to make it easy to kind of read. So you might have to read like a book 1 here, a book 1 there, a book 2 here, and a book 2 there, or something like that. But ultimately, the way that Hickman's FF run worked is that it was Fantastic Four, then it became Future Foundation, which was just called FF, and then when then Fantastic Four came back in, FF continued, and both books are intertwined. It's like New Avengers and Avengers, the way he did that one for right after, actually. So you had FF and you had Fantastic Four, and they both tell the same story, but two sides of it, and they both can be read individually or intermixed with one another. So I don't know how they're gonna put it together. But they're probably going to put them in the order where you just read the FF story and you read the Fantastic Four story when they cross over. And it doesn't cross over till the very third act of his run, basically. And I don't think it's super essential to read them like from Fantastic Four to FF to Fantastic Four to FF, though I think it probably is better. But when I read them now, I read them that way. So that's the best way to read them. In that case, hunt down the individual issues. It'll take up more space, of course. You know, Stephanie, don't feel bad about that at all. I am obviously a collector because I collect many things. I collect a Fantastic Four collection of comic books. But as far as that goes, I collect Fantastic Four comics and I collect other comics, but I do try to pare them down and all that stuff because I prefer to be a reader more so than a collector. So I get exactly what you're saying. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think that's the way it should be. I think most people should care more about reading them as opposed to collecting them. Like, because I know a lot of collectors that just collect and they don't read. Well, don't buy a comic book if you're not going to read it. They're way too expensive for that. And not enough of them can return an investment in the long term. So, but it is fun to be able to hunt down a book and then have it go up. That's really, really fun. But I will say this, comic books are not a distraction for me. Comic books are an essential part of my development and my continuing personal development. I love comic books so much. I think they tell us a lot about ourselves and the world around us and ideas and things like that. I distract myself with mindless TV, but I read really good comics, at least in my opinion. I don't always read good comics. The ones I read over and over again, I think, are really good. Yeah, the Mr. Miracle. First of all, Mr. Miracle, if you're looking for resellability right now, Mr. Miracle is strong because it's just a popular book. It will only get more popular. I think this book will only become more and more popular. It's going to be one of those books that we talk about 20, 30 years from now. Sorry, I'm just reading you guys' comments, and it must be boring to you guys, so I'll read them out loud. White Dog says, I am more of a collector than a seller. I buy way more than I sell. LOL. Half the time, I don't even list the stuff that I buy with sole intent of selling. Yeah, me too. Same thing. I mean, I buy things with the idea to sell because, you be a pickup on the game. It can help fuel your reading habit. And that's kind of what I do. The Jim Lee Christmas cover from, Brian, I think you got a Jim Lee Christmas covers from the Heroes Reborn run, right? That's, I think, yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's them with the Christmas tree and they're celebrating. Is that Jim Lee? Or is it Brett Booth? I think I know the cover you're talking about. I think. Alexander says, I know you're not that big on the current X-Men series, but the X-Men Black run that's coming looks pretty sick. Yeah, I think so too. And I'm really, really excited for Chris Claremont to come back. Let me tell you about Chris Claremont, guys. So obviously, growing up reading comic books, Chris Claremont was the X-Men, right? And I highly respect Chris Claremont for that. His run on the X-Men was monumental. And even then, I understood that, and I knew it. But in the late 90s, early 2000s, I used to really dog Chris Claremont pretty bad. And it was mostly because he came on and did the Fantastic Four. And I really did not like his Fantastic Four run at all. It was such a chore. And it, like, it was one of the, aside from, like, the Fantastic Four not being around for the last few years, it was the longest run for me being a Fantastic Four fan. I was just like, can this just not end? So I used to talk a lot of smack about Chris Claremont. But then I met Chris Claremont and got to spend some time with him. And what a cool dude. What an amazing dude. I still think his FF run's a little clunky, but he helped me understand some of his reasoning behind things and what he did. And then right around that time, I also went back and I reread his X-Men run. And oh my goodness, what an amazing writer. So I'm so excited to see what he could do with this book. What's crazy about Chris Claremont is he is a exclusive writer to Marvel. He can't write comic books for any other company. So that means they